Argentina is pulling away from China's grip, and the entire Western Hemisphere could change because of it.
The story unfolding today in the Western Hemisphere is bigger than headlines, bigger than politics, and bigger than any single agreement. It is the story of how nations choose their future. It is the story of how strength, clarity, and partnership can reshape an entire region. And it is the story of how the United States is reestablishing its role as the steady anchor of the Americas. For years, Argentina struggled under the weight of inflation, debt, and political instability. Those pressures opened the door for the Chinese Communist Party to step in with loans, swap lines, and investments that looked helpful on the surface but carried long-term strings. Beijing saw an opportunity. They moved quickly, targeting ports, energy projects, and critical minerals, the kinds of assets that shape the future of entire economies. But today, that tide is turning. A new chapter is opening, and it is happening because two leaders, President Javier Milei and President Donald Trump, are choosing a path built on realism, transparency, and shared interests. Argentina is not just another country in South America. It is a nation with deep resources, a strategic location, and a long history of cultural ties to the West. When Argentina leans toward the United States, the entire region becomes more stable. When it leans toward China, the balance of power shifts in ways that affect every American household, every supply chain, and every long-term security plan. That is why this moment matters. It is not about rivalry for rivalry's sake. It is about protecting the Western Hemisphere from outside control. It is about giving nations real choices instead of debt traps. And it is about strengthening a partnership that respects sovereignty, encourages growth, and keeps our region secure. For more than a decade, China used Argentina's economic struggles as an opening. Through currency swap lines, infrastructure loans, and strategic mineral investments, Beijing gained influence over key sectors. These deals often came with limited transparency and long-term obligations that tilted power toward the Chinese state. Ports became tied to Chinese companies. Lithium and copper projects leaned heavily on Chinese financing. Data centers and energy grids began to rely on Chinese technology. Each step seemed small, but together they created a growing dependency. Argentina needed relief. China offered it, but at a cost. Then came a shift. Javier Milei entered office with a clear message. Argentina must rebuild its economy, restore trust, and choose partners who respect its long-term stability. He did not cut ties with China. Argentina still trades heavily with Beijing, but he made it clear that the country would no longer accept deals that undermined its sovereignty. At the same time, President Trump stepped forward with a different kind of support: a $20 billion currency swap, new reciprocal trade agreements, and a commitment to prioritize American companies in strategic sectors gave Argentina something it had not seen in years: a real alternative. This is what great power competition looks like when it is done with discipline. It is not reckless. It is not emotional. It is steady, strategic, and rooted in strength. To understand why this matters, we need to look at the forces shaping the region. 1. Economic pressure. Argentina's inflation crisis made it vulnerable. When a nation's currency loses value, it becomes harder to borrow, harder to invest, and harder to plan for the future. China stepped in with swap lines that stabilized the moment but deepened long-term reliance. 2. Strategic minerals. Lithium, copper, and rare minerals are the backbone of modern technology. Whoever controls these resources controls the future of batteries, electronics, and energy storage. China knows this. The United States knows this. Argentina sits on some of the world's largest deposits. 3. Ports and infrastructure. Control of ports is not just about trade. It is about influence, data, and long-term leverage. When foreign powers gain footholds in critical infrastructure, they gain a voice in how goods move, how data flows, and how nations operate. 4. Regional stability. The Western Hemisphere has always been central to American security. The Monroe Doctrine was built on a simple idea: outside powers should not dominate our region. When China expands its reach in South America, it challenges that principle directly. 5. Leadership choices. Milei's reforms and Trump's support are not accidents. They are deliberate choices rooted in shared values: transparency, sovereignty, and mutual benefit. These pressures and forces shape the moment we are living in, and they explain why the United States is stepping forward with clarity and purpose. The path forward is not about confrontation, it is about balance. It is about giving nations in the Americas the freedom to choose partnerships that strengthen their future instead of limiting it. For Argentina, this means continuing reforms that stabilize the economy, attract investment, and rebuild trust. It means working with the United States on energy, mining, and infrastructure projects that are transparent and sustainable. It means keeping trade open while protecting critical assets. For the United States, it means staying engaged. It means offering real alternatives to China's model. It means supporting leaders who choose transparency over dependency. And it means reinforcing the idea that the Western Hemisphere is a region of shared destiny. This is not isolationism. It is not endless foreign aid. It is America First realism, strong partnerships, clear expectations, and mutual benefit. When we look back on this moment, we may see it as a turning point, a moment when Argentina stepped away from dependency and toward sovereignty, a moment when the United States reestablished its leadership in the hemisphere, a moment when China's unchecked expansion met disciplined competition. Strength creates stability, clarity creates trust, partnership creates opportunity. And when nations choose those values, the entire region becomes safer, stronger, and more secure. This is not just a geopolitical story. It is a story about responsibility. It is a story about protecting the future. And it is a story about what happens when leaders choose courage over convenience. The balance of power in the Americas is shifting, and it is shifting towards stability, sovereignty, and strength. Join the conversation in the comments, respectfully and thoughtfully. Subscribe if you haven't already. Give the video a thumbs up. Share the link with others who care about these issues. Be part of our community.
Please support the channel by clicking the logo on the left to go to our channel to subscribe, or the screen on the right for your next video. Thanks again.
Your next video is now ready.